The act of flipping a car is quite simple. You find an automobile for a low price and you resell it for a higher price for a profit. Well, it's not just that simple. The hardest part really is to find a good deal. Using my prior experience, I searched for a car on Copart.com, which is not a sponsor of this video. Copart sells clean, rebuilt, and salvage title cars that go through insurance claims. They do also sell donated vehicles that sometimes, if you get lucky, might have zero issues with them. The auctions are held 100% online, so you can really bid on any cars in different states. As you guys can see, I'm on the website right now. I have the 3 auctions open. I'm located, as you guys know, in Portland, Oregon, and I currently have 5 cars that I kind of have on my watch list. A few of them are already at a higher bid than I probably want to play. There is one car that's starting off only from 50 bucks. So the car is a 2007 Ford Focus. It actually says it's a normal wear, like it doesn't have any damages or anything. The mileage on it is 137,000 miles. It's a clean title car. It's starting off at $50 right now. I'm thinking to possibly win it for around $600 because with the fees and everything is gonna come out to right under $1,000. So we have this car playing right now, and the next one is the Ford Focus. And then the fun part began, the bidding war. Well, there you guys go. We actually just ended up winning that Ford Focus. I was actually gonna play it till $600, but it seemed like the other person that was putting the bids, I think he was also from Oregon, you know, he was being a little lenient. I ended up winning it for $675. I do want to mention one thing is when you're bidding on a car on this specific auction, this is not the price that you're actually gonna pay for the car. $675 is how much you won, but there's also a whole bunch of fees associated. On that website, the specific auction actually gives you like a history of the car, and this car actually, like I said, has a clean title, but it only has one owner. Whenever you're selling a car and you say you're the second owner, a lot of people like that. Obviously first owner is better, but second owner is nice. Your max bid $675, final bid $675, and it says congratulations, you won this vehicle. So with all the fees, I should be looking at $973 for this 2007 Ford Focus ZX4. I'm actually pretty fortunate. My dad is a tow truck driver in this area, so he's gonna bring the car to me. I want to purchase a money order, $973. Thank you. I'm paying for a car.
07 Ford Focus?
Correct. Alrighty, so as you guys can see, I am currently in the car right now, and first impression, I mean, obviously it's dirty. Can't say it's clean, but what I'm really liking is the fact that you can see we have 2 keys. Hopefully it starts up, because sometimes when cars have been sitting for a while, they don't start. So off the bat, I can tell one thing is I've had a few Ford Focuses like this, and they have a common problem. And the common problem is the engine mount. So the engine mounts, they tend to wear off, and so it sounds like the whole dashboard is just shaking. And that's exactly actually what I hear with this car right now. It seems to be running well. I started, it has no dash lights, so that's perfect. We might just only have to end up getting an engine mount. Obviously have to clean it up because as you can see, it's pretty dirty. Oh yeah, looks like this car definitely has a stash of toys. Seems like it was maybe a mom or a dad with kids, because I see a lot of toys. There's some Uno cards. I don't know if you can see me well, but check this out. This car still has the original pamphlet from when it was sold at the dealership. That's pretty cool. So it says the MSRP is $16,535. That's how much this one was sold for back in 2007. I'm gonna leave this car here because my dad is probably gonna stop by later today to pick it up. We'll start cleaning this thing up and getting it ready to resell. In order to bring this car to run mechanically sound, there were a few items that needed to be done to this car, so let's break it down. As previously mentioned, this model of the Ford Focus has a few common issues. The valve cover gasket needed to be replaced along with the engine mounts. The car was also in need of a fresh oil change along with a complete full detail clean inside and out. The first item that I decided to tackle was the valve cover gasket. One of the most important things when you're working on a car is to be very organized, and so for that reason I ended up going with a storage box that I used for prior vehicles that I've worked on. This helped me make sure that I did not lose any bolts or screws. Another thing that I do also recommend is to take before pictures, but because I was recording a video, I didn't have to do that since I knew that if I were to forget what went where, I could just rewatch the video and find out. In order to replace the valve cover gasket, the coils needed to be taken off. Once I got the ignition coils and all the wiring out of the way, I began unscrewing the valve cover. As I took out the ignition coils, this is when I realized the severity of the valve cover gasket issue. All the oil that was actually supposed to stay in the engine was seeping out into the ignition coils and spark plugs. And quite honestly, I was surprised at how well the engine was actually working when so much oil was in the spark plugs. As you can see, the first three were just completely drenched in oil and only the last one was completely dry. I think I just purchased a car that has a head gasket problem, and let me show you guys what I mean. If you look right here, everything looks absolutely fine. Like the oil, well, it's a little dark. I mean, we'll have to replace it. But as we go here, you guys will see this right here, and this is something you never ever want to see. What this right here is oil mixed with either water or antifreeze, and that means there could be a head gasket problem. That right there is something you never ever want to see when you open a valve cover gasket or if you drain oil. The only other thing that I will probably do is drain the oil and see if there's any of this stuff in the actual oil, and if there is, this car is toast. I mean, there's really nothing I can do with this car, because if there is a head gasket problem, there really is no point of fixing it. To do the head gasket will probably cost me another $1,000, which really, there really isn't any point of fixing it, because it's really gonna come out to probably even more than what the car is actually worth. So unfortunately, I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that that's not what I think it is, but definitely didn't expect that. So I credit this idea to my dad. I was having a hard time figuring out how I should take out all that oil from the spark plugs. So basically what I would do is blow air into the hole where the spark plug was, and all that oil that was in there would go straight up into the towel, and the towel would absorb it. Finally, after intensely cleaning the spark plug ports, I was able to bring it back to the condition that it was supposed to be in to begin with. The next step was to get the spark plugs replaced. I picked up a brand new set of NGK spark plugs off Amazon. They were only 10 bucks. I assumed that they weren't replaced for a long time, and my assumptions were confirmed after I took out the spark plugs. The spark plugs looked really old and rusty. Now that we got the spark plug and the oil situation out of the way, what is left now is to go ahead and actually replace that gasket that I told you guys about on this valve cover. And I did end up purchasing a brand new set. I will also go ahead and clean all of this gunk, just because after I put it in, I want this to look as new as possible. I decided not to purchase new ignition coils and just reuse the old ones just because I really did not want to drop $172 at AutoZone. Although they are about $35 on Amazon, but I didn't want to wait a few days for them to come in since I was already working on the car. I just figured that even if the old ignition coils don't end up working well, I can always replace them and it's not too difficult to do so. Before putting the valve cover back on, I went ahead and cleaned the surface area from any dirt or glue that might have potentially stayed from the previous valve cover gasket. When screwing in a valve cover gasket, it's important to be very careful. The reason why is because you don't just start screwing in all the screws. You have to make sure you do it in the correct pattern, or there's a possibility that the valve cover will either warp or crack. Most owner manuals will actually give you the pattern, but since I didn't have that with me, a quick Google search gave me the correct pattern. I don't always trust my strength, so I made sure I brought in the big guns just to make sure all the screws were screwed in tight enough. Alright you guys, now it's going to be the moment of truth. I'm going to go ahead and start this car and I'm going to see whether or not I did something incorrectly. So far the car seems to be running pretty well, but I do want to show you guys the issue that I was talking about the rattling inside the car because of one of the engine mounts. Check it out. You guys hear that? Since I was replacing the engine mount, I had to make sure that the engine had enough support from underneath. Because if I was going to take the engine mount off without any support underneath, the engine was just going to fall through to the ground. But if I put support underneath and hold up the engine, then it's going to be much easier to take off the engine mount, put a new one in, screw it back on, and it's going to be good to go as new. And the last but definitely not least, I had to give this car a fresh oil change. Let's go get that oil filter. That's pretty much it for today's portion of the repairing the mechanical portion of this car. The only thing that was left was to go and get this car detailed because as you guys saw, this car was filthy. I decided not to do the detail myself even though I do clean couches as you guys saw in my other videos. I decided to take it to a guy that I knew could detail it very well. My brother took a car to him, my friend took a car to him, and he did a great job. And me saying that the car was filthy was probably an understatement because when the detailer took out the carpet, you guys should see what was underneath. And honestly, instead of me explaining what was underneath the carpet, roll the montage. I did warn you guys that this car was a mess, but fortunately the detailer did an amazing job. Here's another montage for you guys of how well he did. timing of this flip turned out very well. While I was repairing the car, I found out that my brother-in-law was actually looking to buy a cheap car. So I decided that instead of posting it for sale for about $2,500 to $3,000, I would just sell it to him for $2,000 and secure the profit right there and then. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. And now with the sale secured, let's look at what my true profit and my hourly rate was. I ended up winning the car from the Copar auction for $675, and with all the fees that they have, it came out to $943. The total cost of all the parts that I ended up purchasing, the valve cover gasket, the engine mounts, came out to $102.34. A detailed breakdown of all the parts that I ended up purchasing for this flip, you guys can find down in the description while you're dropping a like on this video. The car detail came out to $350, and the trip permit that I also ended up purchasing from DMV was $34. So all in, this car ended up costing me $1,429.31, which brought my clean profit to $570.69. This car flip did end up taking me around 9 hours, but part of it was filming and recording, so I'll take an hour off of those 9 hours, which it brought to 8 hours of work. So if we take the clean profit and divide it by the amount of hours that we worked on it, our hourly rate came out to $71.34. You guys know I can't just leave you hanging right there and not show you the aftershots of the car. Roll the final montage. Don't forget to subscribe, and until the next video,
До свидания.